everyone. Welcome to the second episode of Rogue Record Music. I'm your host, Rob Myers, and it's great to do this show with a couple other close friends and some that I haven't talked to in quite a while, and two big Guns N' Roses fans. And this was one of the albums that got me through high school. And after that first episode, I thought, I know exactly who I want on this episode and to talk about Guns N' Roses. And I have a funny feeling we're all going to be sharing kind of the same stories of what these two albums mean to us, and our I would say love hate, but our relationship with Guns N' Roses as a whole. So we'll go around the room. We'll start with Brant first from the In My Head channel. Brant, thanks for doing the show. And just really quick, just talk about you like discovering Guns N' Roses and leading up to Use Your Illusion 1, and then we'll kind of circle back around.
Well, I was talking to you offline while we were waiting on Terence to show up. I was kind of going back to that story, my backstory of Guns N' Roses.
So fine, make me sound like a diva right at the start here, like waiting on Terence there.
We were waiting on Axel. Axel. The whole band is ready, and Axel's an hour late. No,
exactly. Yeah. See where this is going right off the start here. Yeah,
right off the start. Let's see. I was 18 years old, 1987. I saw the video on late night on MTV one night. Didn't fully catch the whole video. So I went to the record bar that a record store called the Record Bar in the mall near my house the next day, and kind of talked to the lady that worked there. She had turned me on to a lot of stuff when it was coming out, and I came in. I'm like, I heard this band last night. Never heard them before. It was something about roses, and the guy was like saying "Shana knees," and she's like, "Oh yeah, that's Guns N' Roses." And she's like, "I've got the CD here," and I took the CD out to the car. I had a red Pontiac Trans Am Firebird with T-tops, with a souped up stereo system in it, and I sat in the parking lot listening. Of course, it starts with Welcome to the Jungle, and then goes straight into It's So Easy, and Axel singing in another one of his octaves that he used to be able to sing in. And I remember just the album just blew me away. I think I wore the tapes out CD. I think I had this, matter of fact, I think the very first time I had it, it might have been on tape. Because I remember I wore tapes out, CDs out. I bought this album so many times throughout my life. It is probably in the top 5 of my favorite, as far as Appetite for Destruction. It's probably my top 5 favorite albums of all time, and I think it's one of the best rock and roll albums ever made. I didn't get to see them on that tour, but we heard that they were making a new album, and the anticipation around the album was big. They had a couple songs released before the album came out. I think You Could Be Mine was like on the Days of Thunder soundtrack, and then
no.
Terminator 2.
Terminator 2. Days of Thunder would be
Knocking on Heaven's Door.
Yeah.
Right. See, that's how you know you're among Guns N' Roses fans.
Yeah. Right. We're really quick to go.
And Civil War, you heard these songs, so there was a lot of anticipation for the album. And I had heard some of these songs because a lot of these songs were leftovers from the first album. The first album, Guns N' Roses, wanted to be a double album, and Geffen wouldn't go for it. So I had found a bootleg years back that had songs like November Rain on it, and different versions of the songs, actually. But so I was really looking forward to this album. This album went on sale like on September 17th or somewhere around there. It's somewhere around the solo album's anniversary. And I went and waited at midnight to get it, the same way I did for the Black Album. And we sat in the parking lot and had like a listening party, listening to the CDs, listening to them. And I love these albums. I probably still like the first album better, just because. But I love these two albums. I can't say enough about them, so I'm going to shut up and I'm going to let Terence talk.
Yeah, cool. Thanks. Yeah. So kind of like you, I kind of discovered Guns N' Roses right with the Appetite for Destruction, but it was kind of, I was like in middle school or so in 87 when that came out, or 86. But it's kind of funny because the first time I saw Guns N' Roses, or first time I found out about Guns N' Roses was visual. I used to get this magazine every month religiously called Metal Edge magazine.
Yes.
I think, Rob, you talked about getting it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at my grandma's house with the new copy, and like my cousins and stuff were over, and there was a picture of Guns N' Roses. I'd never heard or seen of them before. And it was the weirdest thing because today, with all the tattoos and the piercings and stuff, people don't think twice. But it had a picture, and Axl had his nipple pierced. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know that like, this blew my mind. And I remember showing my dad and be like, is this real? Like, we didn't even know it was real. And we were like showing it to my cousin, and she was like freaked out. She was like, ew. And we had this whole family discussion of like, is this real? Is this fake? And I'm like, who are these guys? And it was just the weirdest name, Guns N' Roses. I was like, wait, those two things don't go together. And what is this? And it just, but I had no idea what they sounded like. And then, memories are bad. I'm guessing it's a couple weeks. It might've been a month or two. I was over one of my friend's house, and this guy, his name was Chris. And I loved Chris because he was the shortest kid in our class, and I was the second shortest kid. So if he wasn't in my school, I would have been the shortest. So I was always like, please don't ever move. Please stay here. And he played the drums, and he was like, you would appreciate this, Rob. He had like those two bass drums, like Anthrax, kind of that, that's how he kind of played. And the coolest guy in our school, his name was Dave. He played guitar. He had long hair. Dave came over, and he's like, hey, man, I there's this new band. You guys got to hear this. He had the cassette of Appetite for Destruction. He's like, yeah, these guys, Guns N' Roses. And I was like, oh, those are those guys that were in the picture. Yeah, I want to hear this. I want to hear this. And he popped on the cassette, and Welcome to the Jungle started, and there's that noise. I don't know how Axl makes that. And it's just like, it's almost like from a movie, like everything else dissolved, like my head like sucked right into the speaker. And I was like, I think even before the chorus kicked in, I was like, you got to make me a copy of this. You got to make me a copy. So he made me a copy, and I listened to that copy over and over and over again. And then when I got my first CD player, which was like the Sony Discman, that Appetite for Destruction was the first. Appetite for Destruction and the Led Zeppelin box set were my first CDs that I got for Christmas. And I didn't see him on Appetite for Destruction tour, but they were opening for Motley Crue on that tour, and a bunch of kids in my school went to that show, and they all kind of came back like the next day, like, yeah, Motley Crue was cool, but oh my gosh, that opening band was so great. Like, they were just raving about Guns N' Roses. And then and then I didn't have MTV at that time. So I would, my grandmother had cable. So I would like set up her VCR to tape the Headbangers Ball or tape them. And then I would watch it, at home. And when the video for Paradise City came out, I just thought that was the absolute greatest thing ever. And I was just watching that video over and over. And my mom, she was in the kitchen. We had a small house, so you could hear each other. She's in the kitchen, and she came in. She's like, why do I keep hearing the same music over and over again? It's like, is there a naked lady in this video? Is there a naked lady in this? Is this why you keep rewinding it and playing it to see this naked lady? I'm like, no, it's just the coolest thing ever. So then, Patience and Guns, G&R Lies came out, which was great. And like the anticipation was building, like, oh, they're coming out with a new album. Oh, it's going to be a double album. I remember seeing, they did the Farm Aid concert, and they did Civil War in the farm. And I was like, oh man, this song is awesome. And then, Terminator 2, the video for that, You Could Be Mine, was out a little while before the albums were released. So I was like super excited for it. And I remember, I want to say that the place was called The Wall. There was a CD record store called The Wall, and their gimmick, I don't know. I grew up on Long Island in New York, so I don't know if it was just like a regional thing, but you would get these little stickers and put them on the CD or cassette cover, and it said that if it ever broke, it was guaranteed for life, that you could always bring it back and they'd replace it. Although they went out of business like in the early 2000s, and no one uses CDs anymore. But it was like a thing. People would like peel the sticker off and put it on a different thing and say, yeah, this broke and stuff. But I remember calling them the night before Use Your Illusion was coming out to ask if they'd have it the next day. And some guy answered the phone and he was like, we got them right now. And I was like, really? Can I buy them? And he's like, yeah, if you want. So I drove to the, I don't think I could even drive. My dad drove me because I didn't have my license yet. Drove me and my brother to the record store. And I remember getting there and the manager was like, we're not supposed to sell those. And I was like, but he said he would sell it. So they're like, oh, okay. So he sold me the Use Your Illusion 1 or 2. And I had the receipt for the longest time, but then it got kind of messy and I threw it out. But I was like so proud of like, look, it says September 16th, the day before they went on sale. And I think they were $11.99 each for the CDs.
Wow.
And so like the next day in school, I thought I was all big and bad because I'm like, I got it a day early. I was listening to it. And they quickly became my favorite albums. I'm one of those weird Guns N' Roses fans who likes Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 better than Appetite for Destruction. I'm not saying it's better. I just like it better because it could be nostalgia because they came out my senior year in high school where you know how important music is and the songs and the lyrics meant a lot to me. But I was talking to my wife this morning about doing the podcast and she thought I was crazy. She's like, how could you like this more than Appetite? She's like, Appetite is so much better. I'm like, I don't know. It just is. But I was lucky enough to see him a couple times on the Use Your Illusion tour. And probably maybe we'll get into that later and stuff. But yeah, that's kind of how I found myself with them the day before, you know. And then of course I bought them on cassette so I could listen to my car. And then I wore those out. So I had bought them again. And then I bought them streaming. And I mean, every format they've come in, I've pretty much owned a copy of them.
Nice. I'm just
I can see how you could say that because I will say this as we go down through our list. There are 2 songs on these albums that I actually like better than any song that's on Appetite for Destruction. I mean, they're hands down my 2 of my favorite Guns N' Roses songs above anything. So I could see how you could say that Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 is right there with with Appetite. And I think it is a nostalgia thing where like 1 and 2 was kind of like your first album, like where and like Illusion was kind of like mine. But I can see that. I can see that for sure.
Mine's very similar to your guys' story. We had got cable just right around the time of Appetite for coming out. But, you know, I was fascinated by a lot of the pop stuff and Def Leppard and still really wasn't even into Kiss at that point by the time that GNR and Def Leppard hit the scene. I wouldn't discover Kiss till 89, even though I knew who they were. But this isn't a Kiss podcast. Go to the other show and you'll hear all about my Kiss story. But there was a girl in school that had a Guns N' Roses patch on her jean jacket that probably got from a state fair or something like that. So the Appetite had already been out. But much like you, Terence, we had cable, and I was putting in, you know, just taping MTV for a friend of mine who lived outside of town that had farmer vision. So when he would come over and hang out, spend the night or whatever, he'd say, let's go through, you know, MTV. Then we started discovering Headbangers Ball. And that's where I saw, I said Appetite's on my mind. Welcome to the Jungle. And we both just kind of leaned back from the TV screen and we're like, what is this? And why is he in a straitjacket? He's in an electric chair, you know.
Yeah.
And like I said, that scream just went on and we were both trying to imitate that scream. And we were so dumb back then because, you know, they would put like who the band is and what the album was and all that information. Like we weren't even looking at that bottom left-hand corner. It got over and we're like, oh, who is that band? They didn't say who it was. And my friend was like, why don't you just rewind the videotape and we can see who it was. We're like, oh yeah, technology. Right now there's people listening to this that could be in their teens going, rewind. What is that? What does that mean? You know,
you probably at the time thought like, look at us in the modern age with all this. Our parents could never have done that. Look at us. We're in the future here. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Marty McFly was right.
Yep.
So very much the same thing. I got the cassette for my birthday. And I remember a friend of mine says, well, what do you want for your birthday? And I said, GNR would be great. And right about the time where what the original album cover was instantly got censored and became the inside flap. And then that got taken out after a while. I remember telling my buddy, he's like, I said, if you get me GNR, I'm not saying that you have to, but I know that the tape is clear and I know that you can see through the tape. And if you don't see that artwork in there, then I don't want it. So he gave it to me for my birthday that year. And he's like, yes, this is what you think it is. And yes, I did look through the tape. You know? But, you know, I discovered Guns N' Roses a little bit later because, you know, it had been out and the artwork was, you know, censored and all that type of stuff. So it really wasn't till like GNR Lies came out. And I was so excited to get that and thought, oh, Patience is kind of it's a cool ballad. That's different. And I remember going, well, this whole album feels different than what Appetite was. So when Use Your Illusion was getting announced and hearing a double album, I started going, double album. What does that mean? Is that two? Or are they together? I couldn't wrap my head around what it meant by double album at the time. And my record shop was called Finders Tapes and CDs, and they were having a midnight release. I was begging Dad to go so I could go stand in line. He's like, you're not going to go stand in line at midnight to buy an album. You can get it in the morning. So I went there in the morning and they were sold out of everything but Use Your Illusion 2. So that's the one that I got. And that's the one that I actually wanted, was because of You Could Be Mine. So that's my short and condensed story for Guns N' Roses. But I lived and breathed these two albums. So this episode is going to be the three of us talking about this album. And if you are new to either our Brant and I's channel, we review albums, especially on Right Between the Eyes podcast. Something that we like to do is called the 9. We'll review an album, and a lot of the classic albums in the 70s and 80s only had 9 tracks or 9 songs on it. And some of the songs in the Kiss catalog only had 9. So we thought, well, that's kind of a fun idea. We'll pick our favorite songs from the album and only have the album have 9 songs on it. So that's what we're going to do with both of these albums. And Brant's already shaking his head like this is the worst guy.
Much.
He hates me so much.
I'll punch you in the face.
Then to make it worse, to drive the knife in a little bit more, once we've picked our 9, then we're going to pick an overall 9 and make a best of. Because, you know, if your grandmother bought you a cassette tape back in the 80s and she got you like I got a 15-minute cassette tape one time. I'm like, what am I supposed to do with a 15-minute cassette tape or like a 30-minute cassette tape? Now the days of Spotify and all that stuff, you can make playlists. You really had to be meticulous of what songs you were picking because only so many minutes fit per side. And I didn't want to be a jerk one more time. I was going to make everybody do math and say, we have a 60-minute cassette tape and you have to fit. That's the only amount of songs you could pick, 30 minutes per side.
And just put Coma on it 6 times.
Yeah, Coma, and you'll be great. So the first things first, let's talk about, and I do have all of my stuff with me as I'm trying to break it. I have my original cassette tape from back in the day. And then a week later, I went out and upside down, bought Use Your Illusion 1. And then I got into BMG. So then I got it on cassette. And then the recent release of Use Your Illusion for the box set, I bought down on the box set because I wasn't going to spend that kind of money, but I bought the single album for Use Your Illusion 1 because they re-recorded the orchestra with a live orchestra for November Rain, and it sounds amazing, but we'll get to there later. So let's talk about the album covers. We don't have to talk about them individually, but we'll talk. I love turning things upside down, evidently. What did you guys think of the album cover? As iconic as Appetite for Destruction was, and you know how GNR Lies looked, when you saw the album covers, did it scream Guns N' Roses? What were your thought of what they chose to use as the album cover? Let's start with Terence on this one.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of weird. I think, you know, if my 16-year-old self, when it came out, had no idea what it was or what it meant or anything like that, I still I think I heard of an interview once with Axl talking about it where he thought that kid represented himself or something. As I got older, and especially as I got a degree in history, kind of learned that it was part of this big, huge painting by, you know, Raphael of the School of Athens. So, you know, when I see that painting, when it comes up in history stuff, I'm always like, that's Guns N' Roses, you know. Yeah. But I don't know. I would, as much as I love the albums, I'm kind of on the cover. Like I don't hate it, but I'm not like blown away by it either. But it was a time, you know, in the 90s early 90s, there were a lot of weird album covers. You know, we had Nirvana with the naked baby swimming after money, I think came out the same year. And you had like one of my, I mean, I think I'm partial, and you could do a whole podcast on this, Rob, that 1991 was like the greatest year in hard rock.
Oh,
with the
yeah.
albums that were, but also, again, that was my senior year in high school. So again, I'm very, partial. But some of those albums that came out, like U2's Achtung Baby, which I love and stuff, they all had kind of weird covers that you didn't quite, especially when you were a kid or a teenager, didn't quite really understand. So, it's not as direct as like a Kiss Love Gun or something where you know what you're looking at. But, at the time, it kind of fit with all the other 90s covers, and don't love it, don't hate it, but it's become a classic, like, icon through the years now. Yeah.
Yeah. Brant?
Well, first off, it is not this cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
But I kind of, echo what Terence said. It was different, not really what you'd expect Guns N' Roses cover to be. Didn't feel very dangerous. But at the same time, there was a lot of weird covers going on back then.
Mm-hmm.
And what I do like about it is, though, that I think I appreciated back then, and I appreciate even more now, is that they were different covers, but yet the same. It was the same artwork, just different color scheme. I liked red and blue. I think the red color scheme for the one album and the blue color scheme for the two album actually suits the overall mood of the albums a little in a way, in my way, and just in the way I think of things and mood, make music with a mood, and kind of classify music as a mood, as an overall mood of an album. The first album seems a little hot, and the second album seems a little cool. So as far as it seems a little more moody, and the first album seems a little bit more piss and vinegar. So I think the color scheme, at least for the two albums, work. And I do like that they essentially made the same cover for both albums, just made them a little different.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny that you say that. I have some notes from, Wikipedia and Guns N' Roses fandom. It says, and Terence took what the painting is from, and it says, along with this, the cover reflects the style of mood. Use Your Illusion 1 is a more hard rock sound, hence the red, while Use Your Illusion 2 is a calmer sound, hence the calmer blue. So circle gets a square, Brant. Very good.
Totally.
And hey, I would say that the first time I really kind of appreciated the covers was when I saw Guns N' Roses in the summer of '92 when they were on tour with Metallica, and I saw them at Giant Stadium in New Jersey, and they had just these huge banners of the covers. I think Metallica I can't remember what Metallica had, and then they took them down and put up the Guns N' Roses, and that's the first time I saw it in that just like huge arena where I thought, oh, those are kind of cool. Those are, I kind of get it, that style. And just to piggyback, I looked this up real quick. That 1991, these were all released within 44 days of each other in 1991. Metallica Black Album, Pearl Jam 10, Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusions, Red Hot Chili Peppers Blood Sugar Sex Magic, Soundgarden Bad Motorfinger, and Nirvana's Nevermind. And so my senior year of high school, that's the music coming out week after week. It was, for hard rock, it was a pretty good year. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the first Alice in Chains album, Facelift.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
This would have been
more in 1991 that were just amazing. Like REM's Out of Time came out, Tom Petty and The Great Wide Open. It was just a great time for music. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. This would have been my junior year, because somewhere along 7th grade, I felt like I needed to do math one more time, or my parents did. So I felt like I got a bonus year of school with music.
My teachers definitely felt, that's a cover where you're like, well, I'm not really sure what that is, but it's kind of cool and it's got cool colors, and you just go with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
My teachers felt I should have done it again a second time, but they didn't want me around. So they pushed me up. Yeah.
Let's get this guy. We've already got some guy in Ohio in the system. We don't need another. Yeah. We're another one a few states over.
We do not want to see you again. Yeah.
So, without making this a Guns N' Roses show being a 3-hour show, I don't rarely say this on any podcast that I'm on, but if we talk at great lengths about every single song, we're going to be here forever. But I had an idea. If this turns into be a longer show, I will split the episode in half and release both episodes on the same day, just like Guns N' Roses did. So that's in the back part of my mind. So we're going to start with Use Your Illusion 1 first. And with YouTube, I don't get to do a lot of fancy, audio in there, or they're going to flag it. So whenever this gets ported over to an audio version of the podcast, you may hear little snippets of coming in. But we're going to start this off with Right Next Door to Hell being the opening track off of Use Your Illusion 1. And I'll start this one first. The anticipation of, even though I listened to these albums backwards, when I finally got Use Your Illusion 1, I'm like, okay, this is how the band intended me to initially hear it, was with Use Your Illusion 1 first. And I thought, I wonder if it's going to start like Appetite for Destruction did. And it's just like a bowling ball right to the gut, or a chain. It's just a feverish kick from the drums of Matt Sorum. And that was the other thing, being a drummer, knowing that Steven Adler was out of Guns N' Roses. I remember seeing like a Rock in Rio performance and going, who's this Matt Sorum guy? And I was trying to read about him. He was in the Cult and a few different things. So they had added a keyboard player with Dizzy Reed at this time. So the band was heavy by an extra member and a new drummer. So I liked that Matt's sound was like right in the forefront, but the song just kicks off right away, where I was like, okay, I'm on a roller coaster ride. So Brant, Right Next Door to Hell.
Right Next Door to Hell, to me, I love it. I think it's an awesome way to kick an album off. It is just an amazing song. To me, if they're going to kick this album off with anything, they needed to kick it off with a song like this one. It is in stark contrast to the way they kick off Use Your Illusion 2. But I think it's great. It sets the mood of the first album to me.
Terence.
Yeah, totally. I remember before this, Axl was having problems with his neighbors, like the police had come out and stuff. And I can't remember if it was in Rolling Stone or in it might have been on MTV News. I used to watch that. They talked about how like, oh, Guns N' Roses' next album will have a song called Right Next Door to Hell, and they were kind of saying, oh, it's going to be Axl with his neighbors. So I when I saw that and started off, I'm like, oh, is this a song about having bad neighbors? But it's not. It's just the metaphor. But the thing I love is this album, like the drums, the change of Matt Sorum, the Duff's bass guitar sound, the guitar sounds, they sound different than Appetite for Destruction, but they still sound great. And they sound, there's like cohesiveness between all the songs. Like you can tell that all these songs go together. The drums, the bass sound, they all kind of sound the same, even though some of these songs are very different and have different styles, and some are fast and some are slow. There is this kind of consistency. And I love the song because you can hear all those elements that are in all the other songs, like right away on the first one. And it's kind of a weird thing where if somehow you could hypnotize somebody or something that they didn't know this and just played them a song, you could know it was Guns N' Roses, but you could also know like, oh, that one's on the Illusions and that one's on Appetite, just by the kind of the way things sound, as opposed to maybe some bands where you could just randomly insert a song onto any one of their albums and things are either always the same or just so different between songs you can't tell. And this one, it's pretty perfect. Yeah.
Brant. Oh, you already went. Duh.
Yeah.
Yep. I did.
See, I'm right back in my old podcast. I'm so ingrained in listening that I forget, hey, knucklehead, you're the next one to talk.
Your turn, Rob. Yeah.
My turn. Yeah. And I know I'd already had started this, but something that I was picking up Modern Drummer, which I've got an issue of Matt Sorum right here. I don't think that's the Illusion one, but he talked about, he had 35 snare drums that he recorded this album with, and was playing a lot of what they call the Pat Boone, Debbie Boone drum fills, keep them very basic and not get too out of the scope, that they were going from more of a sonic sound, that Axl wanted you to be able to sing all of these licks and they all kind of coordinate together. And I can't remember which one of you said it, probably you, Terence, that all the songs really kind of flow, that when you start messing up the track listing, like I'm going to make us do, some songs may not flow into one another. Like you just know that 14, Dust and Bones is the next track on here. And that was something else that I thought was interesting. Axl Rose is not the primary vocal on a lot of the songs. Now, when Axl comes in, you're like, oh, yep, there he is. And he kind of sometimes overtakes the song with his vocal. But this is an Izzy Stradlin song written and sung, which the feel of it changes a little bit, but it's still very much a Guns N' Roses song where you go, oh, that's GNR. And it took me for a minute to go, well, that's probably Axl just singing in a different voice like he has. And once I started reading the liner notes, which I thought was great because it tells you who's playing what, who's not playing what. And so Dust and Bones, Terence.
Yeah, this probably is the song that could probably most fit onto Appetite for Destruction. You know, it's kind of really got that just dirty, grimy kind of feel. I love the Izzy Stradlin songs, and I love his vocals. I got his solo album when he left in that, still kind of had that. His solo album was more like a Rolling Stones kind of feel to it, you know, so you can kind of see he brought that element to the band. But yeah, this is like, you know how they play like in the radio, like Queen, they play like We Will Rock You and We Are the Champions back to back as if it's just one song always. That's kind of how I feel about these two songs. You know, like just you pop in the cassette on your driving and you would never fast forward through one or the other. You just play like one right after the other. And they almost like this could have just been one song called, you know, Right Next Door to Hell / Dust and Bones. And it would have just kind of went together for me. Yeah.
That 2-second space really isn't there for these two songs. It's barely a second from where one ends and the next begins. And it does that a couple times throughout both these albums. Dust and Bones, Brant.
Dust and Bones. I think it's like you guys have already said, it's the perfect follow-up song to the opening song. It's a great contrast. One comes at you swinging and then the other one kind of sets into a groove. I love the groove of Dust and Bones. I love the subject matter of it. I love Izzy's voice. Rob, like you, I remember thinking, oh, here's just like with it. It's So Easy coming on the tails of Welcome to the Jungle. I thought it was Axl changing his voice, but it sounded very, very scratchy in a way that Axl don't usually do. And of course, you got the liner notes to see that Izzy was the one actually singing the song. And like Terence, I love the Izzy songs. I love that they had different vocalists on different parts of the album, and of course Axl's always there to lend a hand on the background vocals or sing something in the song. I love the feel of it. I love the groove of it, and so yeah, I like Dust and Bones a lot.
So I remember watching MTV as the album was coming out, and Kurt Loder there's a name from the past, is interviewing Axl like in his backyard, and he says that, you know, you did a James Bond song, and the song that he mistakenly says are Diamonds Are Forever. And Axl was like, no, it's Live and Let Die. And Kurt Loder was like, oh, I messed it up. And I just remember this look on Axl's face, like, I'll walk out of this interview right now. Like you don't even know what song we've got going on. But I was trying to go Live and Let Die. I'm a huge James Bond fan, and I'm trying to remember how that goes. And I'm like, I dug out a James Bond VHS and I put it in, and I'm like, how are they going to make this song where it's like da-na-na, like very orchestral? I'm like, okay, I don't know if this is going to be good or not. And the first time hearing it, I was like, holy crap, that is a great rendition of the song, where sometimes people do a cover song and you're like, I like the original better. This just buries what Wings had done and Paul McCartney had done with the song for James Bond. So Live and Let Die is just great. All of those thematic elements. And a few years ago, I had seen somebody take the Guns N' Roses version and put it over the opening track sequence of Live and Let Die when the song comes out. And it works perfectly. That's just how, anytime I see Live and Let Die come on, in my mind, I'm like, I need to go find my GNR CD and I need to sync it up and turn the music of this off. So, Brant, what do you think about Live and Let Die?
I like Live and Let Die. I'm with you. I think it's better than the original, although I'm a big fan of the original. But what I had in my notes in the back of my mind is, if you think about it, this is the first song on this album that kind of begins to step away from the original Guns N' Roses formula.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple songs could have easily been on the first album. One's Piss and Vinegar, one's Groove and Sleaze, and they both could have been on the first album. But then you get this one where it's got a little bit of an orchestra in the background, and it's a cover song, and it's like, okay, this is a little bit of a change in the formula. Is this new Coke they're about to try to get us to drink? But it's it's the perfect time to do that. Like I said, this album is very well methodically laid out, because, okay, it's like we've showed you with the 1-2 punch coming out. Now we're going to kind of switch it up a little bit to let you know that what you have to look forward to on the rest of the album, because there's more of this coming, and even more kind of experimental stuff that we've never done before. So I think this is kind of the cracking the door open and sticking the foot in to saying, okay, here's a little bit of a tale of the new Guns N' Roses and the direction we're going in. It felt like, you said, they added additional members, they had background singers, and by the time they got to the end of the tour, didn't they actually even have Dizzy Reed, and so they had all these people, and what's his name, Gilby Clarke.
Gilby Clarke, I love Gilby Clarke.
So they had the band was actually growing, and a lot of people have criticized this album for being bloated, for having a lot of bloat to it, which I don't see. I'm not one of those people, but I know that a lot of people, they kind of look at tracks that are like Live and Let Die as, okay, the band's starting to believe their own print. They're starting to believe their own hype, and they're buying into what everybody is saying about themselves, and they're becoming more of a bigger organism rather than this tight, 5 guys that were just hungry and starving, kind of like early Kiss. We're Kiss podcasters, so we always have to take it back.
That's right.
This is almost like Dynasty Kiss compared to first album or Kiss, in a way. So, but I still like the song. I think it's a great cover.
Terence.
All right, Rob, this is where you kick me off the podcast, because
I haven't done this in a while, so get ready.
Of all the songs, except for maybe My World, which really isn't a song, it's just Axl pretending to be Trent Reznor for 90 seconds. This is the one where I'm just like, nah, I could fast forward through it. I think I hit skip a lot if this comes up. Honestly, I love the Wings version of the song, and I think the Wings version is superior. You disagree, you said, but maybe it's nostalgic because Wings were a huge band that my parents and their friends were into when I was a little kid. So it was on the background a lot. So I don't know. I even, to get ready for this podcast, I listened to both again, and I don't know. I still think Paul McCartney does it better. I mean, he wrote it. He's the original. So when I hear it, I don't hear that much difference from the original. It's not like they took it and did this huge other thing with it. They just kind of made it a little more hard rock. And in fact, when I saw Paul McCartney in a concert, not live, it was on TV, and he even said, like, oh, there's this other band who does this song now. He didn't name Guns N' Roses for some reason. And he's like, we're going to do it the way they did it. And he did it a little more hard rock. But I don't know. For me, this is just like, it's a cover. It's not original. It's not, in my mind, better than the original. It's not that different from the original. They didn't do their own, like, it's not like Toad the Wet Sprocket doing Kiss and like what as a 3/4 waltz. What song did they do on that?
Rock and Roll All Night.
Rock and Roll All Night. Yeah, as like a waltz, like where you're like, this is terrible, but I appreciate the wanting to do it something different with it. So for me, this is one that would not make my top 9. I would skip. I was kind of like, why? They didn't really need to do this, but I will say when I did see him in concert, they have this like cool strobe effect. You can kind of see it in the video a little bit with the song. And when that was going on, that was kind of cool. I was like, all right, yeah, I'm kind of into this. But it's kind of funny because I was looking before this. I think Guns N' Roses was really only known for 2 cover songs, maybe 3, because I know they did the Nice Boys song on the GNR Lies and Mama Kin, which Mama Kin I knew because Aerosmith, Nice Boys, Rose Tattoo, I never even heard of them or knew who they were. And there's a Live from the Ritz concert that they used to play all the time on MTV where they did Knocking on Heaven's Door. So they were kind of known for that cover. But then I guess after the Rolling Stones Want Sympathy for the Devil and the Spaghetti Incident and all this, and now they've got a million covers. But at this point, it was kind of like a rare thing for them to do a cover.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't want to say that I didn't like the Wings version. I very much do, but this was just something trying to wrap your head around of going, I don't understand why they're doing a cover, but hearing it and go, okay, they made it a GNR thing and it worked.
Especially since the next song is probably one of their greatest songs ever and probably one of the best power ballads ever, that I'm just like, skip, let's just go, just get to Don't Cry. Yeah.
Don't Cry. Since Terence just opened the door, so I'll let him back in the podcast after kicking him off. This was one when it premiered. I remember there being like a real big buzz about the premiere of this video, and I couldn't figure out for the longest time who was singing with Axl in the video. Like, he's wearing a plaid shirt. I'm like, is it some computer screen trickery that this is two Axls or somebody else? Not realizing it was Shannon Hoon from Blind Melon, who would pass away, not that much longer, probably within a couple years after this album was released. But I remember just after the video ending, felt like I went on a journey where Guns N' Roses had started here, and then you could tell that they just upped their game in production. Like, this was a full scope video that it had some type of a story, like he's a Civil War soldier or something like that. And it just seemed like this really big epic thing. And I don't even know if I knew what the word epic meant in 1991, but I just remember this was one I replayed over and over again, Terence. Like, I had to keep watching this video. I was just so enthralled with it. And then, spoiler alert, realizing these lyrics sound different because I had bought Use Your Illusion 2 first. So when it started, I was like, this sounds different. I was trying to sing along with it and go, I'm screwing up the words. Why is that happening? So Brant, Don't Cry.
So Don't Cry. Little factoid about Don't Cry. It's the oldest Guns N' Roses song in existence. It was the first song that Axl and Izzy wrote together. So it is the oldest Guns N' Roses song in existence. Don't Cry. I love this version. It's amazing. It shows that Guns N' Roses can write a power ballad other than, and it's, to me, better than Sweet Child of Mine. And in my opinion, Sweet Child of Mine is a great song, great melody. But Don't Cry is an amazing song. And I'm not a big fan of the alternate lyric one, but we'll get to that. And the video, of course, it's one of the trilogy of epic videos that they made. I mean, what can you say? Like you said, they stepped up their game, not only on the album, but then in the terms of video production. So basically, I mirror everything that you said about Don't Cry. I think it's great.
Terence.
Yeah, I think, for me, when you look at my favorite songs or my favorite music, it's always bands that do a lot of tempo changes where, it goes fast and slow, and like Stairway to Heaven, where it's like, you feel like you're climbing a mountain. The tempo keeps building and there's big buildups. And, I think that's why the Illusion albums are so good, because there's so many songs where there's like buildups and tempo changes and dramatic guitar solos. And this kind of just has it all. And I do feel like this version, I think the music is exactly the same. It's just the lyrics between 1 and 2. I do feel like this is the superior version. And I do like, this would be my go-to if I wanted to listen to the song. Whenever the new lyrics and the Use Your Illusion 2 come on, it always makes you go like, something's wrong, something's not right, but this one feels right, maybe because I heard it more, or it's just better, or the original. But yeah, this is everything you'd want out of a power ballad, and it was, I don't know, it's almost like a perfect song. Yeah,
definitely. We'll move on to The Perfect Crime. This was one where, now that we're 5 songs into the album trying to figure out, like, I stopped like trying to second guess where this album was going to go because I had no idea. This was one, as much as I like this album, this is one that kind of floats around. Sometimes I might skip it, and sometimes I'll get to the end of it and go, I don't know why I skip it. I don't have a whole lot to say about it. I like it. Axl's in the higher register of his voice, and he's starting to get to that spot where he's starting to speed up his lyrics a little bit, and like I'm trying to read along going, oh, slow down, and he'll even get faster as the album progresses. But I think this is a cool song. What do you think, Brant?
I love Perfect Crime. I think they circle back to it has a very, very much right next door to hell feel to it, even though it's faster. What Terence was just talking about, the tempo changes. I appreciate that we got a very fast song, 5 tracks in, or 6 tracks in. How many? Yeah. 5 tracks
and it's 2 minutes and 24 seconds. It's a quick song.
So, and it's one of the songs that I like on this album. So yeah, I like that it's got a fast paced guitar solo, and even though it doesn't change tempo pace, they change the dynamic pace, and even inside of they have a middle where they kind of slow down. The tempo is still going the same, but they start playing longer notes. Axl sings a little slower just before they get to the solo, and it starts off fast, ends fast. So I like Perfect Crime.
Cool. Terence.
Yeah, this song has a tough role to follow up Don't Cry. Like, that's not
Right.
easy. One of the greatest songs ever. And I think it's better to just have a more simple, straightforward, just short rock song to go after Don't Cry than to try to follow it up with another, like, heavy emotional song. Because Don't Cry, if you're like really into it, listening to it, man, you kind of can feel emotionally drained by the time that's over. So you need to like kick your adrenaline back in with this song. The interesting thing on this song, and kids today wouldn't understand this because every other word in music today, my old man rant here, every other word is profanity in these songs today. But this was the song when I was listening to it going, wow, there's going to be a lot more curse words in this album. Like, like I don't know what, maybe Appetite has 1 or 2 or something, Yeah, this was like, wow, they're saying the F word a lot in this here. Like, this is cool, But it also sort of has a big theme or one of the big themes of these albums. And that is like Axl's angry. Somebody has wronged him. He's got an enemy, but that enemy is going to get what's coming to him. Like when looking at this here, it's like, kicking back in the shadows, got no need for the light. Who's sorry now, old timer? Looking how you spent your life. Like, that's kind of a theme you hear. Like, so if you're mad at someone, you're angry, you want revenge, you want to know that they're going to get their comeuppance. Like, this is the album to listen to where you're just like letting all that emotion out. And this is definitely a song where, like, if you're pissed off at someone, put this one on and you'll feel a little bit better about yourself. Yeah.
And then you get to the next track, 1, 2, 3, 1. You ain't the first, where we have just taken a Herculean jump from one mountain down into the valley. And I remember even listening to this, talking about, cursing. I had my Bluetooth speaker at work, and I got a desk that's, kind of away from everybody. So once I started hearing the swearing, I was like, oh, I really can't be playing this at work. Like, I'm trying to turn it down. And this one came on, and one of my supervisors walked by. He goes, oh, Guns N' Roses. He goes, why did you choose that song to play? And I'm like, I don't know. This is one that kind of becomes a forgettable song for me. As much as I like this album, this is one where I'm like, I more have the feeling like you did with Live and Let, Live and Let Die, where I was like, I feel like this was a Duff McKagan thing. Like, hey, I need something on the album. And Axl was like, that's fine. We only have 15 tracks. Let's go 16. So I don't know if that was the case, but this isn't one that, as I'm thinking of these albums, this isn't one that comes to my mind. It's when I hear it, I go, oh yeah, that's right. This is on the album. And I can't ever remember which of the two that it's on. So Brant, what do you think about You Ain't the First?
I like You Ain't the First. It kind of has the what is a GNR Lives feel to it.
Yeah.
With it being just all acoustic and very stripped down. But honestly, I think an album like this, as grandiose as this album is and this whole project is, it needs songs like You Ain't the First. Every single song can't be Don't Cry. Every single song can't be Right Next Door to Hell or one of the big, huge, epic, opious songs. You need some You Ain't the Firsts on there to kind of strip it down and bring it kind of down a little bit. You can't just stay up here all the time at a high pace all the time. So I think, like you said, it is one of the more forgettable songs on the album, but I think it suits a purpose on the album.
Cool. Terrence.
Well, at one point when my girlfriend dumped me, this may have been my favorite song. So it depends on what mood you're in. If you're in a happy relationship and everything's going good, then yeah, this song you like skip. But you know, if you've just got your heart broken and you want to be like, no, I don't care about you. You're just one of a long line of many. Let me hang out here with Duff and Axl and ease my pain. But it is perfect track placement because if the album opened with this, it wouldn't work, you know. But having it sort of as a bridge, like this song and Bad Obsession's a little more faster paced, but it's kind of not too far away from this. They're kind of good bridges to then get back to the heavier November Rain and stuff late and Coma later in the album. So it is a good sort of middle catch your breath kind of song, kind of like, you know, when you go to a concert and the band opens with like some of their big hits and then they close with their biggest hits, but you need that little gap in the middle there. You're not going to play your biggest hit, you know, right in the middle. That's kind of what this is here. Yeah.
Yeah, this is the comic book crossover, Terrence, we're reading the 2 main comics, but we have 14 filler comics. So I really need to read Teen Titans 2 to hear this Superman story. This is what that is.
Yeah, or when they have like a big story arc coming up, so the issue before it is a guest artist to give the real artist time to work on the good stuff, and it's just some filler before the big kickoff event. Yeah.
So if Nico was here, he would have a hard time saying this. Well, hold on. I'm going to cut that out because I jumped. I'm going to count us back in 3, 2, 1. Track number 7, Bad Obsession. I love this tune. I love this tune a lot. When we get to the 9, I had to make some really, really hard decisions. This was one that I come back to quite often when I'm playing this album. I know right where this is. And in the days of having the fancy cassette deck where you could flip from side A to side B, I knew exactly where on side 2 I needed to stop so I could go back and hit this on side 1. Just a great tune. And Axl's word choice is just great. The way he helped construct these lyrics is just really fantastic. I've already left you and I'm better off left behind. I like that whole thing. Like, wait, you left somebody, but you're better off. You're already better off left behind. It just, the wordplay is just really good on this one. Terrence, what do you think about Bad Obsession?
Yeah, it kind of goes with what you said. I always took this to kind of mean have maybe like a drug addiction kind of metaphor as well, not just a relationship. What Axl says about his mother in this is quite shocking. I won't repeat it, but it does take the whole thing to a whole nother level, especially back when I was 17 and it was the early 90s and we were just coming off of like Ronald Reagan and the conservative 80s, and you hear this and you're like, whoa, you know. So, and again, there's a lot of cursing in this too, which kind of goes with that, which again, today's music, you wouldn't even think twice about it, but for the time it was kind of quite shocking. But again, these were songs I guess kind of could have been left off. Another band would have maybe cut this down to 9 or 10 songs and put these as B-sides or something. But I really appreciated that Guns N' Roses gave us all of them and it wasn't extra for it or anything, you know? So I love all these songs, and these are 6, 7, 8, and 9, like those that part of the album. I don't feel like they command your attention as much, where I can put these on and they could be in the background or I could be doing other stuff. And it kind of goes where some of the other songs like Estranged or, you know, November Rain, it's like you got to like sit there and pay attention and close your eyes and put on headphones and, get all these emotions out, where these are just like good old fashioned classic, like Aerosmith, Kiss, just rock songs that could have been. It shows the band's roots in the 70s too, and I think there's a Bad Obsession it's got some harmonica parts,
harmonica
to it
and cowbell,
which is good. And I know I'm looking here. Wes Arkeen is credited as one of the writers, and he also is credited as a writer on Yesterdays, which I really love that song as well too. So I'm not really sure what his contribution was, but whatever he did, I liked both of his songs on the albums.
Cool. Brant.
Bad Obsession. I like it. This was a when it come to whether I was going to include this in my 9 or not, it was a tough decision. I mean, to say what you guys haven't said already or kind of touched on already, and then we can move on. It's got cowbell, it's got harmonica, and it's got my favorite tone of Axl Rose's voice that he sings in. That, I can't stop thinking. I love when he does that.
I love that.
He's down like that. I kind of reminds me of It's So Easy. I see your sister in a Sunday dress. I love when he sings in that lower register. I love that Axl voice. The shrieking one I can handle and tolerate, but I love the lower register. The Night Train.
You got the Bad Obsession. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it. So.
I love sometimes too on some of the songs when they mix both of his at the same time, where he's in the low register and the high register, and it's both, and that kind of blows my mind. It's like, this is the same guy singing this. It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Very versatile voice. Yep. So but Bad Obsession, everything y'all said plus my little additions.
Track 8, Back Off Bitch. This was one when I was listening to it at work. I knew it was coming up. I'm like, all right, I got to get my speakers down for this. And I forgot how many times they say the last word of a song over and over again. I'm like you, Terence, my old man ears started going, geez, like I was cranking this up as a late teenager going into my 20s. Now in my 50s, I was like, okay. And again, this is just one of those songs Axl's pissed off at somebody and he's writing them a scathing review on Yelp, or whatever it might be. It's great.
Now, every scathing review on Yelp I ever read again, I'm going to hear it in Axl's voice.
There you go.
Like, the chicken was cold. Service was slow. Yeah.
Another fun song, but like you said earlier, I feel like this is, I wouldn't call it filler background. It's not something that it's, like you said, commanding my attention. I'm kind of humming as I'm doing something else, but it's not until the next 2 songs that really tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, I need you to turn around and listen to it. Fun song, but again, it's not a repeat offender of mine. Terence.
Yeah, this is one I could skip. Although I like it. It's one that like my teenage self wanted to like relate to, like a lot of the songs about heartbreak and despair and all that. I'm like, I related to so much. Having like someone who you just, I'm guessing it's a female admirer who he just is too clingy and wants to go away. Like, yeah, I didn't really relate to that as a teenager. I wasn't having that issue or that problem in high school. No. It's kind of one of those things. It's more of like a fantasy song where, someday I'll be a big rock star and I'll have to, beat the women off with a stick, but it's not really my personality or my type. So it's saved by the, great guitar playing and drums and bass and everything, but lyrically it doesn't really speak to me that much. But it, again, it could have been a B-side and they could have shortened the album, but it works, as a bridge between some of the heavier stuff. Yeah. But Axl is definitely mad.
He's definitely mad. We need to keep a mad counter going. A Brant.
Back Off Bitch. I like it a lot. I think it's a great song. One of my favorite parts about this song is the opening, the big, huge, long. It's like it starts off and it's like it's climbing a mountain to get to where it finally does kick in. You have the awesome Matt Sorum drum fills while Slash is basically playing a solo at the beginning of the album. And then it settles into that. Once they get to the top, it settles into that rhythm that Slash is playing for Axl to start singing over. And I just love some of the notes that's in this song. Like if you ever really listen to Guns N' Roses music deeply, kind of looking past Axl's vocals and going through and listening to the album just only in the left channel, and then going back and listen to it only in the right channel, where they pan Izzy's and Slash's stuff hard left and right. There's a part where he's just kind of, before he starts singing, it's that whole rotation where he's just going, "Whoa, baby, pretty baby," and before he starts singing, some of the notes that's under that, they're hitting minor stuff and the diminished chords, and it's just so good. It just shows that even on a song that we might call a B-side or a filler or whatever, they were giving it everything that they had.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And as far as creativity and stuff like that goes, so yeah, I love Back Off Bitch, and they do say the bitch word quite a lot, but I think that was just angry Axl,
Yep.
So yeah, but I like it.
Probably the second coolest drum lick, other than "You Could Be Mine," Double Talk and Jive. I cannot tell you the love that I have for this song. And Terence, you said it earlier about Duff's bass playing, that Duff has an attack in this song, and how he just locks in with Matt Sorum through this. It took me a while to figure out how to play this like jungle shuffle groove between the floor tom and the kick drum to get that alternating pulse out of it. And the days where I just couldn't go to YouTube and find some guy doing it, I had to sit in like woodshed and figure out how in the heck is he playing this, because I could tell it wasn't a double kick drum pedal. So the day that I figured it out, I thought I discovered like uranium or something like that. Like, I can play this song. So cool. The lyrics are very short, but my favorite part is just the jam. And this is what closes out side one of this album, and going, man, we just went on a journey through side one, and going, I can't even begin to imagine how side two is going to start off this album. So Double Talk and Jive. What do you guys think about it? Let's go with Terence.
Yeah. I said, like, the last couple songs I might skip or so. This is a song you stop on. That opening is amazing. And of course, this is an Izzy Stradlin song written by Stradlin. I love all of his songs. And, the bass is amazing. The drums are amazing. The build is amazing. But also, some of these songs are very wordy. And I think Axl is a genius lyrically. I think he's a poet. I think he's an absolute genius. But he's not he's not brief. He's not short with his words. No. Right? And this is so brief, but it's so good. It leaves you wanting more, but that's what's so great about it. And the words definitely have a lot of meaning for me. And you can almost hear, like, Izzy, I have no more patience, kind of maybe referencing their former song Patience, and that like acoustic and a lot of the stuff that went on in that era. And so it's got like that double meaning, because patience means something to Guns N' Roses and Guns N' Roses fans. And the first chorus, like, found a head and an arm in a garbage can. Like, I don't know what that means really, but that's a metaphor. I don't get it. Maybe he did find a head and an arm in a garbage can. I don't know, but it's just so cool. Like, it's just got to go collect. But then the second verse, where he says, "Back in town and all new friends, they saying how you been, effed up and out of place. That's how I felt back then." That's like, wow. Like, like so many people like, "Hey, how you doing? How you been?" And it's like, do you really want to know how I've been? Do you really want to know what I've gone through? You want me to just say good and keep going? And so, and then it doesn't just end. It just keeps going, and it gets this like Spanish guitar kind of Moroccan feel going. And it just like, and the thing is, we know that they worked on this album for a very long time. And there was big time between when 87 and 91 when it came out, and that these were worked on, but it feels like this was just a jam. Like, they were just jamming and someone hit record, and so it's got that loose jam feel, but we know that it wasn't. They spent a lot of time getting it just right, which, if you do that, a lot of times it can feel overproduced and sanitary, and this definitely does not. So yeah, and it's funny to think that, like, back in the old days, this is where we'd have to take out the tape, flip it over, put it in, and then hear those like piano beats for the start of side 2 and November Rain. But yeah, I absolutely love this song. Yeah.
Cool. Brant.
Yeah, I love it. I love it too. Like we talked about, that I love Izzy's contributions on this album, and Izzy's songs, at least these first two, Dust and Bones and Double Talk and Jive, are very much. I think they're very autobiographical. I don't think that. I mean, it is very well common knowledge that Izzy wasn't happy with the direction the band was going in. He felt like they were getting too big. He felt like he was being slighted since this band started with him and Axl. And Dust and Bones, there, he lost his mind today. He left it back out on the highway. And then uh, uh, Double Talk and Jive, it's actually kind of autobiographical and kind of true. They actually did find body parts in a dumpster that was on the same block
Oh, wow.
as a hotel that they were recording in.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, they actually, you can look it up. They actually turned out to be the body of some porn director or something like that. But
wow.
He said,
I had dreamed that. So, okay, yeah, all right.
I found a head and an arm in his garbage can. I don't know why I'm here, living on the road for so long. I got to go collect. And I think the words in this song are probably the most autobiographical. Like he said, that second verse, "How you been? Fucked up and out of place." That's how I felt back then. So I mean, Izzy's I love this song, and I love how it goes into the Spanish at the end of it. I think it's great. But yeah, a very autobiographical song, but I love it.
Well, in the day and age of cassette tapes, you would have to hit stop, pull it out, and maybe even blow the cassette tape off a little bit and go, okay, I hope it doesn't eat it, and get ready to push play. This would be track 10 on the CD, but it becomes track 1 on the cassette. And you want to talk about him channeling his Elton John, and that was part of the influence and the mindset for Axl of going through, is kind of creating an album sonically like an Elton John, like a Rocket Man, where it's taking you through all these breaths and winds. And one of the coolest things is seeing was it 1992 MTV Video Music Awards, and there sits Elton John at one piano and Axl Rose at the other piano, and that's where the light bulb goes off and go, okay, I can get it. I can see it now. This is a spoiler alert. This is my favorite track from the album. I remember seeing the music video is so cool, and it only takes me out of it for a second, where I go, hey, that's Ricky Rocket from Headbangers Ball, at the wedding party. But just what a cool music video, and the idea of them, walking out through the church and getting married, and then seeing this big, huge, elaborate Catholic church. And then you get the POV of it's a little tiny church out in the middle of the desert, and there's Slash out there, shirt off, playing, his Les Paul guitar solo. It's one of my favorite guitar solos, as flashy and fast as Slash can be. We haven't talked about Slash enough, that his guitar playing is stellar. Like, you can sing all of his licks, very much like an Ace Frehley lick singing type of solos, where it isn't like Dream Theater-ish 500 notes a minute, which is cool, but you can sing this whole entire solo. So
I'm throwing the red flag. As close as I had the red here. In football, when they do that, yeah, it's Ricky Rackman. You said Ricky Rackman. He was the drummer Poison.
For Poison.
Yeah, which would have been funny to see Poison in the wedding scene and jumping through the cake and the rain.
I said that, and I was like, why does that sound funny? Like,
they're close, though, so that wasn't too bad. Yeah.
Ricky was a young boy, had a heart made of stone.
At least you didn't say Keith Moon. Yeah,
right. But yeah, cool track. And sometimes we talk about, the day and age of flipping records over, and, that first song on side 2 being something that's really going to set the mood off. Typically you wouldn't start with a ballad, but this just takes you on a journey, and it clocks in at 8 minutes and 58 seconds. And you think, wow, that's a long song. We haven't even got to the longest song yet. So Brant, November Rain.
It's epic. It's a masterpiece. It is, I think, one of the best Guns N' Roses songs. It's definitely got its fair share of airplay over the years. And I like how it just starts off with a couple simple notes and finishes in this big, huge, grandiose ending that changes halfway through the song. Guns N' Roses would start to do that. They did it all the way on their first album back with Rocket Queen, and where they would change. They'd be like, "Oh, is this a new song in the middle of the old song?" And I like that they continued on with that in some of their songs. It just got more over the top in a good way. November Rain, though, I mean, it's classic. It's a masterpiece, and it's one of my favorite. Not my favorite song on the album, but one of my favorite songs on the album. So yeah.
Terrence.
Yeah, you can definitely hear the Elton John influence. I don't believe Elton John had a 9-minute song on any of his records, but I remember seeing an interview with Matt Sorensen where he said something like Axl wanted him, and I hope I'm getting this right because I looked it up. Elton John's drummer Nigel Olsson, is that the guy who drummed for, and his fills, and he had these big fills, and you can hear like in November Rain those drum beats that sound like they came right off an Elton John record, and Slash's guitar, which I absolutely love because of the emotion that he puts into it, and he can put more emotion in one note, and just how he bends it and holds it and plays it than some guys can put in like playing 1,000 notes. I find his guitar work, I just personally like it a lot more on Use Your Illusion 2 with like Estranged and Locomotive and some of those songs. So I've probably talk more about it there, but obviously on November Rain, his solo is phenomenal. And I remember being in high school and talking to a kid about it, and we were all like, what happened in the video? Why are they all running? You know, like no one would jump through a cake just because it started raining. Like what happened? And there's a story. And I think we were under the impression we'd have more videos and maybe a movie, and a lot of this stuff would make sense, and we never really got it. And then we just kind of like forgot about it a bit and stuff, and it's just another weird 90s video. But I also remember talking to him, telling him how I love the ending the best when it changes and it does that piano and Slash comes in, and he was like, oh, that's my least favorite part of it. I like the piano part better. So everybody likes something different. But it's one of these songs that like only 1990 Guns N' Roses could ever make this song. Like I can't imagine any other band at any other time making this song. Guns N' Roses in 1987 couldn't make this song. Like I had that same, or one of the bootlegs that had the early version of November Rain, and it was like acoustic guitar. It didn't sound anything. I mean, you could hear the foundation of the song, but it did not sound anything like the finished product really in terms of the piano and the drums and all that. And I don't think Guns N' Roses, Chinese Democracy, Guns N' Roses or whatever could have done this, and anyone else. It's like, it's so like of its time and of its era. It's just like perfect. Yeah.
When I work for Lowe's distribution, and I'll hear, this must be Lowe's like corporate radio, I still hear Live and Let Die, Don't Cry, and November Rain from this album still to this day. I just heard November Rain on the Lowe's radio on Tuesday, and I'm just like, here we are in 2024, and November Rain is still being played. Again, it's just through corporate radio, but somebody somewhere chose a batch of songs, and these are what we're going to play through all of our stores and our distribution fulfillment center. And I'm hearing at least 3 or 4 Guns N' Roses songs like a month. And I thought it fitting in this last month, I heard those 3 songs in preparation for this. And this is when I just heard Tuesday, where I'm like, wow, it still has some relevance. And, you know, buddy of mine's like, isn't that such a cool song still? So yeah, like you said, it was of its time, and it's kind of transcended the album.
And also too, I don't know how much you want to get into this kind of stuff, but the live versions and the live are even more like elongated, and they'll play like a little intro. I think on that one live CD that they came out, they played the Black Sabbath song as like an intro to it. And this is almost a song that if you hear it, you might think like, well, this can't be performed live. Like you can't do this live. It's too much. Yeah. And yet their live versions of it are phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. All right. We got The Garden. So it's not very often that you have like a same song with almost the same title on the same album, but they're almost in track one, like two tracks back to back, where I'll see it and I'll go Garden of Eden, and I'll start thinking, oh, it's the garden, and then it's the Garden of Eden. So I kind of want to tie these two together and kind of do them rapid fire here. And it always, on my list that I have here, I have in parentheses featuring Alice Cooper. And I, there are other guest vocalists through here, but this was one I had just recently started listening to Alice Cooper trash and not reading the liner notes at the time and going, who's that voice? And I could hear his voice, and then I'm like, oh wow, that's Alice Cooper. I had no idea that he was on here. There wasn't any news articles or anything that were like, oh, guest appearances by, you get that hype sticker and it would list, who all the guest players are. So I kind of liked some of that Axl just put on there. And we're like, if the diehard fans of these people pick out who they are, then great. But like we said with Don't Cry, it didn't say featuring Shannon Hoon of Blind Melon. It was like they were just singing on the album. So what'd you guys think of The Garden? Brant?
Pass. Not a fan. Not a fan. Never really been a fan of The Garden.
Okay.
I don't skip it. I usually don't skip it, but to me, it's not as, it's the first letdown to me on this album when you get to it. It's okay. Not, it's probably my least favorite song on this album. Not overall, but my least favorite song of this album.
Gotcha. Terence, The Garden.
Yeah, I was a big Alice Cooper fan with the Trash and the Poison. Was Poison on Trash, I think? And then the Hey Stupid album, which didn't do so well, but I liked. So to me, the highlight of the song was the Alice Cooper kind of, he's sort of singing, sort of like
narrating,
like narrating. Yeah, it's like elaborate narration. It's not really singing, not really just talking. This is another one where it seems like it's some kind of adventure with some kind of like mysterious woman who's like has some kind of enchanted spells, and as a kid in high school, I couldn't really relate. I was like, I'd like to relate to this song. I'd like to go on this journey with this woman here that they're talking about. But I'm not quite there yet. So this is one that probably could have been a B-side. If you think this is bloated and you needed a cut, this is one I would cut. I don't hate it. And again, if it's in the background, I don't mind it, but it's not one that I've ever like said, oh, I just got to listen to The Garden today, or I got to play this. And, so it's kind of skippable.
Well, we'll just go right in the next one.
And then let me just say, I'm sorry, because we were doing both of these songs. The other gardening song, which where is that? The Garden of Eden, right? That song I absolutely love, just because of the speed of it and how fast it goes. And I can't believe that both of these songs actually had music videos for it.
Yes.
Yeah. And I really, 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 I used to really love to memorize lyrics. And in school, when my teachers were talking, I would just sit in the back of my notebook and just try to write like how much of a song I could remember. And I remember my one friend thought I was so weird. I didn't even think of it, but Kiss had just come out with Crazy Nights, and I thought that was so great. And I was writing how much I could remember, and I was showing it to him. And then he told some other friends, like, yeah, he's weird. He keeps handing me Kiss lyrics. I don't know what is he doing here? And I was like, so like, it's so cool. Like, but the day that I could recite all the lyrics of The Garden of Eden and sing along like in beat with Axl, even though I'm a terrible singer, that was like one of the highlights of like an achievement of mine. They put that on my tombstone. Like he
knows all the lyrics
to the Garden of Eden and can sing along that fast. Yeah. And then there's one line I remember my friend picked it out, and we would say this all the time, where Axl said, "Dragging my heels with a bitch called Hope." And I was like, wow, that is like, if that doesn't sum up like my dating life in my teens and 20s, nothing does. Dragging my heels with a bitch called Hope. Yeah. So Garden of Eden, I do love that song. Yeah. But The Garden, skippable. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I do like the Garden of Eden. Brant and I were talking before you got here. They released 11 music videos between the two albums.
Wow.
And these two songs back to back getting music videos, I was like, wow, I would have thought, you know, a Bad Obsession or a Perfect Crime or maybe another one off of Use Your Illusion too. But the fact that both of these got music videos really just kind of blew me away. And I do like the speed of this song. It comes in at 2 minutes and 42 seconds. It's in, out, and done. But like you said, Axl and his thesaurus and his dictionary, instead of saying, you know, the Ocean's 11 don't use 12 words when 3 are going to do, Axl's like, I'm using 87 words.
Yeah.
And half of them will be curse words. But yeah, this is a fun song. Brant.
Yeah, it's like Perfect Crime's bookend. Yeah, that's what it reminds me of. It's very upbeat. I love Garden of Eden. The Garden, not so much. Garden of Eden's great. It's fast. It's hard to sing along to. It's quick, gets in and out. The video's a lot of fun. It's actually a good highlight towards the end of the album. But yeah, so I like Garden of Eden. Cool.
Track 13. We're not done yet, folks. Don't Damn Me, coming in at 5 minutes and 20 seconds. This again kind of goes into a Perfect Crime, You Ain't the First, Back Off Bitch. You know, like these songs are just kind of like bridges that I don't want to say you have to go through. And yes, I'm listening to them and I appreciate it, but I'm not picking a lot of memorable things off this one. I like the groove of this one. I like the opening of the track. And I actually quite like Slash's solo in this, but it's just, I think because the album is coming to a close and I like the last 3 songs so much more, I'm wanting to get to the end of this album because I know I have a whole entire album still yet to get through. So what do you think about Don't Damn Me, Brant?
Love it. Love Don't Damn Me. It's one of my favorite songs on the album. I think it's very autobiographical for Axl. Axl would continue to draw a lot of hate and drew a lot of hate after this with his antics and his antics and his shenanigans. But I love Don't Damn Me. I think it's a great song.
Terence.
Yeah. The guitar, the drums, the bass make this song. And it's a really great, just straightforward rock song. The lyrics, it's obviously like a response to GNR Lies, the song One in a Million, and all the, I guess, criticism Axl took for the racist comments in that, the anti-immigrant comments, the homophobic comments. And I remember Bobcat Goldthwait. Remember that guy I think he did a joke about how like he says all that, but in the liner notes, to GNR Lies, it says like, sorry to all those offended. And Bobcat was like, it's one thing to be like a homophobic, anti-immigrant racist, but you got to be a pussy about it and back out, you know? And so to me, this song, the lyrically, it's hard to relate to because it just feels like it's just Axl trying to respond to the criticism he took for specifically One in a Million. I think he had some other comments, and I mean the guy was always in trouble for something in the 90s. But yeah, it's kind of lyrically it kind of falls short for me, but the guitars and the music makes it up. And I wonder too sometimes in these songs whether the guys playing the guys in the band knew exactly what lyrics Axl would actually put down. And I know we're not even there yet, but the guys in the band didn't even know that My World was going to be on the CDs or the record till it came out, and they saw it on there and they're like, what is this? Yeah. So I feel like this is one that the guys probably came up with the great groove. They came up with the great music, and Axl was like, oh, I'll put some words to it later. And then he came and did his vocals later. Cause I don't think Axl, from what I know from reading Slash's book and Duff McKagan's book, I don't think Axl was like part of the band a lot in the recording process. I think it was like the guys did their stuff with the music, and then he came in at like 2 a.m, and then his stuff with the vocals and like November Rain, all the synthesizer, it sounds like an orchestra, but it's not. It was just Axl doing keyboards and doing all the different instruments through keyboards. So that's the sense I get on this one. But I still like it. Still good. There's no songs on any of these albums I dislike. It's just how much do I love them, and this one is, kind of in the mid range.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of to piggyback on that, a lot of times they didn't know what he was writing. And Axl has actually even said to one of the songs on here that we're going to talk about in a little bit, where he came in and listened to what Axl, what Slash and Duff and the band had recorded, and his reply to, what the fuck am I going to write to that?
Yeah.
So a lot of times the left hand did not know what the right hand was doing, because there was so much tension between the band at this time that Axl a lot of times wasn't even in the studio with them. So,
Gotcha. All right, we'll move on to bad apples. One bad apple will spoil the whole darn, the whole bunch. I like the groove of this song. This is another one of my favorite tracks off of the album. This too gets a music video, if you can believe that. Again, thinking of how much this is almost like in the fact of Michael Jackson putting out videos. Like Michael would have like the Bad album, almost the whole entire album just became a music video. And Guns N' Roses did just about that between two albums. This is just another fun song. I love Izzy's guitar playing in this. Again, the drums and bass are great. Another fantastic solo by Slash. And I really dig Axl's vocal performance throughout this whole entire song. So how do you feel about some Bad Apples, Terence?
I like it. I never really realized this till we were doing this podcast and going down song by song. I don't actually really think of this album or these albums like song by song, especially this one. I think of it in chunks, like chunks of songs, like, and I'm realizing. And so like in that opening, like those first two songs, Right Next Door to Hell and Dust and Bones, and even Live and Let Die, like that's like the opening chunk. And then you got Don't Cry. And then there's like the chunks after that. So I kind of think of like after the heaviness of November Rain, like The Garden of Eden, Don't Damn Me, Bad Apples, and Dead Horse. That's kind of like a chunk. They're kind of flow together of these kind of like just straight ahead rock songs. They're not epic. They're not big. They're very autobiographical. And this one lyrically, I think is really good. Axl like does a really good job lyrically of like, just with his wordplay on this song. And there's one part where like, I got genuine apples, free sample, and and like got my got my camera back from customs, got my law fees up to date. Like there's just turns of phrases that if you just read them, like, what is that? But in the song, it sounds so cool. And it kind of piggybacks really well with Don't Damn Me, because it's more of Axl saying like, hey, I'm just trying to speak my mind and tell my truth. And if you don't like it, then that's your problem,
Yeah. And some great piano work too.
Yeah.
It's not atypical, which kind of leans in more to a Rolling Stones type of a feel, throwing that random piano in there that kind of works. Brant.
Yeah, I love the bluesy feel of this song. I love that it's a very refreshing change to what we've seen so far. And it's different. There's not another song on the album like it. And there's, a few songs on here that there's not a song like it on not only the album, but in their whole catalog. But yeah, I like Bad Apples. I like the words, the turns of phrase, the piano, the groove, the very Stones feel that it has. I like when they throw back to their roots. And so, yeah, I dig it. I think it's a great song.
And there's nothing like beating a dead horse at track 15. I really like this song. Like I like this song a lot. This was one that would get a constant replay from me. And I love the acoustic intro to the song, and it kind of mirrors itself towards the end. You get that fast tape speed, like they kind of ran out of tape there, and it's just fun. I love Matt's groove through this, and Izzy has some really tasty little licks and fills in there where I really feel like this is something that Izzy was, pushing for. Like, hey, we need to get more like this. You could probably have taken Dead Horse and put it on maybe a GNR Lies or even towards the back end of Appetite for Destruction. I would think this song works really well that way. So a Dead Horse, Terence.
Yeah, I absolutely love this song. When I saw Guns N' Roses in concert for the Use Your Illusions, the first time I saw them was when they were with Metallica, and that set list was also on their pay-per-view. They played that set list for a while, and I think it's on some live stuff. The second time I saw them was a little later on in the tour, and they had changed the set list. And this was one of the I've pulled up the set list right here. It was their 15th song of the night. They played it right after November Rain and right before like Sweet Child of Mine and the encore. And I remember Axl came out and he played that acoustic intro to it. And he said something about like, yeah, you're wondering what this idiot's doing with the guitar or something like that. Like he did like some self-deprecating comment about it. And he played that intro part. And the way they switch from like the soft intro to the more hard rocking part with like almost like a styrofoam cup crunching, and Axl's just frustrated like and the guitars are great, the drums, bass, everything on this is great. It's so energetic, and if anybody's ever been in a relationship or a job or something where it's just you feel like you're beating a dead horse, you just feel that frustration of like this is going nowhere, or it's never going to happen, or it's not going to make it, you can really relate to these lyrics. I talked about a couple of these songs like The Garden, where as a kid, or I couldn't really relate. I wanted to because it sounded fun. This is a song where I can really relate to these lyrics of being in a spot, just feeling that like, oh, this is just never going to happen. I'm putting all this effort and it's just never going to happen. And we haven't really talked about it, and it might be different for some people, but the album, like artwork and interior artwork, like, especially at this time in the 90s, some of it was cheap, thrown together. Their stuff, you could tell they like really took time to put together pieces of art in their lyrics, different things. And I believe there's a picture of like a dead horse in New York City, like, covered up. And that's just like, that's just the perfect visual to go along with this song. And I remember just when they played it in concert, it was phenomenal. Yeah.
Brant.
Love Dead Horse. I agree with everything that you said about it, Terence. It's one of my favorite tracks on the album. Very relatable. I like the groove to it that it has. It's got the music and everything is great. And you mentioned it, and I was going to mention it if you didn't, but the transition that they make from the acoustic to where everything kicks in, the sound that you hear is a nut being cracked in a nutcracker. And Mike Klink, the producer, actually has credit for being he is credited for production, engineering, and nutcracker on Dead Horse.
And then at the end, they bring it back. They bring back the acoustic part to end it. It's really great.
You're right.
Yeah, I never knew that. I always thought it was a cup or something. Yeah,
they bring it back, and it's almost sounds like it's being played through a tape. It sounds a little tinny, and then it's like Rob was talking about earlier. We've all heard that dreaded sound where your tape starts getting eaten, where the tape all of a sudden starts going, and you're running towards it. Going, no, but I love that where it sounds like either they're rewinding something. I think in the video, it's like they're rewinding the VHS tape.
Yeah.
But before I saw the video, I always related to, wow, man, that sounds like somebody's tape getting eaten.
Yeah.
And that ending too is like, it's the perfect ending to then lead into that like heartbeat hospital sound of Coma. I know I'm stealing your thunder, Rob, to go to the next song, but it's like, it's such a good transition from the fast pace of the rockin' part of Dead Horse to then bring it down with that tinny acoustic sound to then a little bit of silence. And then like you're in a hospital with the boom, boom, and you're about to go on this epic 10-minute and 13-second, like crazy musical journey in Coma. Yeah.
Do you know what Slash? This was a baby child of Slash. Do you know what he originally wanted to call this song?
No.
Girth.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. It was in that same interview.
Yeah.
With Kurt Loder. I remember him getting a chuckle out of it. So we had to really kind of say we can't call the song girth,
Yeah.
you know. But this is a fantastic way to end the album. 16 tracks, and Terence teed this up perfectly. This sends you on a roller coaster ride of somebody ODing, coming back and hearing all the voices of like Axl, you're this, you're that, or whatever, and then hearing that whispery voice of like I love you or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
and then hearing that heartbeat. It also makes me sound like, did they get the heartbeat from Operation Mindcrime? I feel like are we in the same hospital? Is this the same universe? All
You can hear the phone ringing in the background. Yeah.
Dun, 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 dun.
You know what I love? You talk about production value. You hear all
man.
that, and then at the very end of it, you hear that I love you, and then under it you hear a I love you. Listen to that. Listen, sometimes there's a very deep, sinister, slowed down I love you layered under that.
Yeah, there's a couple
Amazing.
songs on these. Estranged is one where you have to listen to these with headphones.
Oh yeah.
Like you can't just listen to it in the car or in the back. Like you've got to like shut all the lights off, not have the TV on, nothing. Just give the music your full attention. Listen to the headphones so you can hear how they move audio around and things go in your and just, you know, it's amazing. It's just phenomenal. Yeah.
Coma, especially Coma, that whole once it goes into that guitar solo, and you've got I think by the time it was Coma, I think Coma might have been all Slash at this point in time. I don't know if Easy was involved on this, but when he's doing that solo and he's over there and he's holding those notes the way you talk about, he's holding that note, and then that's in one speaker, and then over in the other ear you got that that very chunky driving under it, and you listen to that, and dude, it gives me goosebumps. That's how awesome it is. It's like it's amazing. I mean, I know we're talking all over each other because it's just
perfect.
that good. It's just that good. It's just that good. And it doesn't feel like it's 10 minutes.
No, and the bass of it is just like a real simple, like that Duff McKagan. Dun, 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 dun. It's a really simple pattern that you would, if you heard it, you'd be like, "That's cool," but I don't think you can make a 10-minute song out of this. And they come back to it again and again, and it just like it's the anchor on top of everything. And it's funny because you guys were talking about that part. I guess this is our difference where you guys are like, you know, I love you. For me, it's the part where Axl's like, zap the son of a bitch again.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, whoa. Like, what is going on in this hospital here? You know?
And that's trippy to hear that happen, especially with the headphones on. You can hear it. You could almost feel that, like, oh, I'm feeling that, you know.
Yeah, they're like, we're losing him.
You know what?
Like,
one of my favorite, though, I love this song so much. It's got so much favorites in it. The part that if you said, okay, if you struck down the essence of this song and been like, what song taps you at your core the most in this song? It is the amazing vocal performance when Axl says, all I need is some clarity and someone to tell me what the fuck is going on. God damn it. I mean, dude, you may have to censor that. I don't know if you want, but that right there, when I hear that in my car or when I hear it in my headsets, it's like I tense up during that time because there's been times we all have felt that way. You just want to know what the F is going on. And I love that. It's that to me is like Axl at excellence, even though it's just excellence.
Yeah. For me, with Axl, with that too, it's the part where he's like, "You got a one-way ticket on your last chance ride." It's just his change, but he holds certain words and notes just right and puts the emphasis just right and pulls out like a little, all the bag of tricks to like sounding a little bit like Steven Tyler or a little bit like Mick Jagger, a little bit like just perfectly. And there's no way out of lie, like it's just it just grabs you. Like if you give it your full attention, you're just, the whole world's gone and you're in a hospital somewhere with this guy in a coma and, feeling that of like, just, what the heck is going on?
The way it builds at the end, I'm
Mhm.
still watching reruns of my life. When you reach the
Yeah.
point of breaking, it's going to take some time. And it's almost like it just keeps going up this mountain
Yeah.
and even almost like it's speeding up. And then
And
he
so is
just
Slash's
holds it.
guitar. Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
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 They just keep
I was just
going
looking
up.
looking up the lyrics here. A line that I really like. They've been calling all morning and hanging on the phone. They've been waiting for an answer, but nobody's home. And when the bell stops ringing, it's nobody's fault but your own. I was like,
Yep.
holy moly!
Yep.
Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
And the
Oh,
way it comes at, his lyrics are so great, but it's just like you're being punched by Muhammad Ali with them. Like you don't even have time to process them because it's, you would have seen it coming, but we gave you too much time. You said no one's listening. It's like boom, 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 boom. You got to listen to it over and over again, or read along with it to really get the impact because it's so fast paced.
And then the throwback, it's so easy to be social. It's so easy to be cool.
yeah.
Easy being hungry when you ain't got shit to lose.
Mhm.
I mean, he sat down and he wrote that. He said basically those words just poured out of him because he was kind of, he wasn't really happy with what he was doing with the song. And he said, and I just sat down and I started writing and all these words just came out.
Yeah, the fact that he was able to do that and it flows so well, it was almost like this was almost purposeful. But the fact that you said they spewed out of him is just absolute brilliance.
But where the song this song goes through so many moods and so many but we talked about how songs change, kind of like November Rain changes and these different songs changes. This song changes several times, but then it gets to that point where he says, it actually starts when he says, maybe we'd be better off without you in a way. You're the one-way ticket on your last chance. Right there is when you go into that second part of the song that kind of leads us out of the song and leads us out of the album.
And it's a great capstone and an example of if you played this song first and you said this is what the rest of these two albums, everything that these two albums represent and all the different ebbs and flows that it has is really captured in Coma, the different styles and things that you would hear from Guns N' Roses. I knew this.
Let me just say this. It's the perfect last song for the album.
Yes.
Because when it's over, you're just like drained. You're just done. You need to hit pause, go get a Gatorade, go get some. If this was in the middle of the track listing in between Garden and Garden of Eden, if somebody said you can't have two Garden songs back to back, let's put Coma in there. It would almost kind of get lost and lose a lot of its emotional weight. But having the album end on it is just amazing. With this Spotify and kids don't listen to stuff in album order and all that. That art of track listing is kind of lost on this generation, but it's the perfect spot for this song. Yeah,
definitely.
Welcome to the 9. You may only choose 9 songs to move forward. No more, no less. The 9 is here.
All right, so you saw the 9 show up. So if you're unfamiliar with the 9, we're going to whittle this album down to its barest essentials, which is a pain to do, but we're going to make this album only 9 songs long. So rather than, we're going to change the order, we're going to make Bad Apples the first song. Everything's going to run in order. So if you don't like song 2, then song 2's out. So we'll just go down 1 through 16, and we're going to find out who's putting what on their mix. So I've got mine highlighted. I was a nerd and highlighted them in their corresponding colors of Use Your Illusion 1, Use Your Illusion 2. Nice. So right next door to hell, I have this as part of my 9. Brant? Nope. Terence?
Yeah, I'd probably say I did not make a list, so I'm just winging it here.
Okay.
I'd probably, this is hard because I love all these songs, but I'd probably say it's not in the
Welcome
top.
To the 9.
No? Okay.
You may only choose
Dustin
9
Bones. This is a no. Brant?
No more.
Yep, for me.
No less.
Terence?
I'd probably give it a no also.
Here.
All right. Live and Let Die is a yes for me. Brant?
No for me.
Yeah,
Terence?
It's a no for me also.
Wow, you guys are representing. Wow, I'm going to kick you both off the show. No. Don't Cry is making my list. Brant?
Yep.
Terrence.
Yeah, that's a yes for me.
Gotcha. Perfect Crime is a no for me. Brant.
No for me as well.
Terrence.
Yeah, probably a no for me as well.
Okay. You Ain't the First is a no for me. Brant.
No for me.
Terrence.
I'm outvoted, but I would put that one as a yes. Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Number 7, Bad Obsession is a big yes for me. Brant.
Strong maybe, but ended up being a no.
Okay. Terrence.
Yeah, probably a no also.
Wow. Number 8, Back Off Bitch is a no. Brant.
Yes for me.
Terrence.
Yeah, I'd probably give it a no also.
Number 9, Double Talk and Jive is a big yes for me. Brant.
Yes for me as well.
Terrence.
Yeah, that's a yes. So I've got 3. I'm counting on my fingers. So, yeah. So I'm giving that one a yes.
Number 10, I would be shocked if we all said no to this, but this is a big yes for me. Brant.
Yes.
Terrence.
Yes. And also, I think if we did this in reverse order, I might have a different list because I think I was harsher on the early songs because I know like I got to save some room for the 9 later on. So maybe, I don't know, maybe if I highlighted it like you, I might have gone back and redone stuff. But yes, November.
Oh,
we're on
I
November
had-
Rain right now. Yeah,
I had
November Rain is
chicken-
big yes.
I had
Okay,
chicken
yeah.
scratches all over the place, and then I made this nice pretty list once I had tortured
That
myself.
looked like the old betting slip my dad used to use on NFL games in the 70s when I was a kid to the illegal bookie maker on Long Island. Yeah.
So we've got The Garden is a no for me. Brant.
No for me.
Terrence.
Yeah, no for me.
A no for the next garden. I didn't like the first garden on my list, so I'm not putting it. The Garden of Eden. Brant.
It's a no for me, but it was close.
Terrence.
I'm gonna give it a yes. I'll give it the 5 spot. But this is one because it's later. I'd probably say yes, but if it was earlier, I probably would have said no. So it's kind of hard. But yeah, it's like when you're picking like when you're a kid and you're picking teams, and as you get towards the end, you're picking people who you originally said no to. So maybe that's what's going on here. But yeah, I would say Garden of Eden is a yes, just because I love the fast pacedness of it. Yeah.
Don't Damn Me is a no for me. Brant.
Yes for me.
It'd be a no for me.
All right. Bad Apples is a yes for me. Brant?
Yes for me.
Yes for me.
Nothing like beating a dead horse. I like beating a dead horse, so that's a yes.
Yes
Brant?
for me.
That's a yes for me.
And we all have to have coma, I'm assuming. So Terrence only has so many more spots left. So that's a yes for me.
But I have one more spot, so I'm going to go ahead and put. Oh gosh, I can't decide between Right Next Door to Hell or Dust and Bones. I think I'll go ahead and put Dust and Bones back on the list because that'll make my 9 spots there. Yeah,
There we go.
which I hope you wrote that down or filmed it because I don't remember what I said. But
Yeah, I've got it filmed and
Yeah.
I'll write it down.
Okay.
And put it in the list.
I had a feeling you were recording this. Yeah.
So that is where we are ending this episode, but probably pretty much like Guns N' Roses, you're probably going to get 2 episodes maybe dropped at the same time, or one day, one the next day. So you'll probably see the same setup again for Use Your Illusion 2. On the behalf of Terrence and Brant, I'm Rob, and you've been in Rogue Record Music. Take care.